News Radio 840 WHAS, Tony, Dwight, Dave Jennings, as we bring in a Louisville activist and, by the way, executive director of 2X GameChangers.org. And recently, the cover story on the Washington Post, a lot going on with this guy, man. He's been around about 20 years here in the city. Christopher 2X, how are you, my friend? What's going on?
Dwight and Tony, just glad to be back chatting with you guys again. And in behalf of Christopher 2X Game Changers, it's always a pleasure to share some conversation with you guys on topics, and especially serious topics that we are confronted with, especially in Metro Louisville and the nation.
Yeah, and listen, we got some heavy stuff to talk to you about, man, and uncomfortable stuff to talk to you about. But before we do any of that, we joke on this show that I hate kids and they get on my nerves and all that. And, but
he's not exaggerating. He actually does hate kids.
But truth be told, if there's a hurt child, a hungry child, some kind of a child in need, if there's tears in a child's eyes, it breaks my heart.
For like 10 seconds.
No.
Longer than that?
It does.
Okay. Oh, but only if they have a dog.
At least 15 seconds. But truth be told, seriously, if there's a hurt, hungry child or a child in need, it tears me up inside, and I can't get over it. But you did something yesterday with your organization that I think is pretty powerful, pretty fantastic. And it involved children, and children from one area helping another area. Before we get into the heavy stuff, I want to thank you for that, and I want you to kind of explain what went on yesterday, man.
Yeah, so thanks again, guys. And what Dwight is referring to is yesterday at 1 p.m. at the Chestnut Street YMCA. And for your listeners, that YMCA is 100-plus years old. It's in West Louisville, again, on West Chestnut Street. It acts as a beacon for many things, meetings, health and wellness, and it also, in that facility for many years, has been connected to a preschool and before and after school for kids up to middle school ages. And so some kids from the Highlands at St. Francis of Assisi Catholic School, preschool into 8th graders, they have been collaborating with me for several months on projects, especially in 2019. They reached out to me about the violent crime going on in the city and how it was affecting kids and impacting kids. And they wanted to do something in the Highlands to show kids, especially in the epicenter of this violent crime, especially in West Louisville, downtown Smoketown, some parts of South Central about Churchill Downs, that they really cared about what was happening to them and how they were affected by gunfire going off in the neighborhoods and how it was actually, kind of derailing some of their learning focuses and trying to get back into school and learn in a healthy way. And so we created something that they did at the school. We went out to Bardstown Road and advocated for what they wanted to do for other little kids in another part of town. And then on a quick wrap-up on that, we also made them a part of our honoring trauma surgeons and nurses over at U of L for the great work they did as it relates to saving lives due to all this reckless gunplay in Metro Louisville and all these many years since our newfound government started in 2003. But this particular project at 1 p.m. yesterday was about how they reached out to me, Dwight and Tony, 3 weeks ago. And because of the social unrest, they asked me if I could help them with a project, and that was no more or less of being a Lincoln connector for them to other kids because they wanted to do something about how an East meets West kind of deal with kids to say we care about coexisting. And with that said, their parents and others said, what about food drives and all that stuff? And they said, no, we want to do a kid-to-kid thing. And what they did was they did a donation cause to raise toys, summer toys, for preschool into 10 years of age for those kids at that facility to enjoy, just to have fun amongst all the stuff we've been going through with COVID, the violence that's around them, and, of course, the unrest now. and the social advocacy efforts as it relates to social justice issues. These kids from the Highlands brought 1,000+ toys to that center.
That's unreal.
And gave it to staff for those.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, Christopher 2X. We all go way back. We've all been hanging out for a long time. And you know that song, I Was Country Before Country Was Cool. Christopher 2X, I know it's been, look, the last couple of weeks has been unprecedented. We've talked about it. But Christopher 2X was in this fight when it wasn't cool and when it wasn't chic to be down Black Lives Matter. You have always been there. I've turned on the television at 1 o'clock in the morning and seen you behind a family that had no one to advocate for them except for you. So I know a lot of people are in the fight today, and that's awesome. But you have always been in the corner of what we've been talking about for decades, and when no one would stand up, and you always did that. So I wanted to say that before I hit you with the big question with this, Breonna Taylor. This is barreling towards a decision on what is going to happen with the police officers. Your best guess, where do you stand on this? Where do you think, what's your gut say to you, not knowing any details of what that report is going to say? What do you think the report will end up saying from the AG from Kentucky?
Well, and that's an excellent question. And in my opinion, Attorney General Daniel Cameron, from the position of the AG of Kentucky, has a big decision to make in regards to what the intent was that night as it relates to March 13th, or that early morning of March 13th at 1 a.m. in the morning when, the barrage of gunfire went off and she lost her life. So, one, will he find the evidence to find willful intent for a murder charge? I don't know if he's going to be able to find that. Secondly, will he find something that's reckless for wanton or something like that? He could find that. And then thirdly, could he find that at the end of the day, because of all the circumstances, that no charges are warranted in this situation? He absolutely might find that. However, as far as the response from young people in this community, I think it's a mixed bag, guys. One, they've already kind of pretty much put into their mindsets in a solid way that murder charges are the only acceptable charges. So some are going to be disappointed if they don't see murder charges. And then those, if he does charge on the wanton end of recklessness because of so many bullets and all that, they're not going to understand a wanton charge compared to a murder charge, because some just are not going to understand the legal definitions of those charges. And then if he goes to, hey, this was a justifiable shoot, then, that's going to be a total disappointment on another emotional level for the young protesters and those who have been involved in the advocacy efforts for justice for Breonna Taylor. What will be the cause and effect behind that?
Right.
Well, I've seen these rodeos before. I've seen it back in 2004 with the Michael Newby shooting connected to now former LMPD detective Mackenzie Mattingly. I made several trips to Ferguson to deal with the impact of kids who were in the neighborhoods, were affected by all of the chaos, and then other things, the little small fires along the way, and almost 18-year time frame of me being out here publicly. It could go different ways with this situation because of the emotional attachment of justice for Breonna and everything else going across the country. Could we see more civil unrest? Could we see more civil disobedience as far as in a violent way, in a vandalism kind of expression way? Absolutely, we could see that. Do we get to that? I don't know. The emotions will be high on all ends. Will we see at some level a rebellious action from LMPD officers who feel that if the officers get charged, that wasn't fair? We could see all of that. So these are unknown deals that could emerge in the next several weeks to next few months or so. If you listen to Breonna Taylor's lawyers, they put out statements in the last 2 days. that said we won't get a decision for maybe up to a month to 2 months. We'll see. However, and I'll get the however went in real quick, guys, be very mindful there's a federal investigation. And my take on the federal investigation is that's going to be interesting. This is the first time I've seen the feds and the FBI engage in a police officer-involved shooting in Metro Louisville in my 18-year time frame of being out here publicly, of people seeing my face publicly. And so that's an interesting scenario there. And could the feds charge? Absolutely. Could the feds not charge? Absolutely. But I would say that we really need, and I would ask your listeners to really pay attention to what the FBI does with this case. And so what could the FBI charges be? They can't be murder because they're not going to deal with that part. But could the FBI feel that at some level, because of the warrant and the complaints about the warrant, could they feel that Breonna Taylor's civil rights have been violated because the warrant wasn't proper? Or maybe it was proper. Stay extremely focused on what the FBI does, because the mere fact that Russell Coleman recused himself from the case and Tom Wine recused himself from the case on the state level and the federal level, which now Daniel Cameron's got it on the state, and on the federal level, there's been somebody assigned to this case in the Civil Rights Division in Washington, D.C., because Russell Coleman recused himself from the case. And that's an indicator to me, lastly, that the Civil Rights Division of the FBI is looking into has Breonna Taylor's civil rights been violated by maybe the warrant and a combination of things. That's going to be really interesting, bottom line.
Christopher 2X, here's one thing I'm concerned about. You mentioned people being disappointed if the charges don't go their way, and I get it. There are people that are really skeptical of any of the facts that come out, regardless if they're true or not. My concern is, I think yesterday in Atlanta, I'd be willing to bet there were the so-called bad actors in place if there were no charges brought in that shooting. My concern is they'll be in place here in Louisville also, so it may go beyond disappointment. What can we do to circumvent any of that?
Well, and that's an excellent question, Tony. I think at the end of the day, individuals like myself, Breonna Taylor's mother, Tamika Palmer, her sister Janiyah, her aunt, Bianca Austin, all of them are calling for peaceful advocacy as it relates to her daughter. And that's all they can do, is keep that redundant call for that. Some things we can't control. However, I tell young people on the ground every day that going up against a powerful military force like the police department, the state police, or even the National Guard is, that's a tall task to overcome. And so I think the mother's right on point, and really that's what my assistance to the Taylor family is to give them at least my opinion on how you can create dialogue and drive solutions through being civil and trying to at least advocate in the way that you all feel about justice for her, but doing it from an intelligent perspective. Some things we can't control, guys, and that's the minds that don't want to listen.
That's
the
right.
minds that don't want to listen.
That's right. His name is Christopher 2X. He has been an activist and legal for nearly 2 decades. He is also the Chief Executive Officer of 2xgamechangers.org. Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks, man, so much for your time.
And we'll talk to you down the road, okay?
I appreciate it so much, and I'll wrap up on this. Tell people to go to our website. Well, go to our website if you can, 2xgamechangers.org, and read that Washington Post piece about my daughter and myself. I think it'll be interesting for your listeners. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. See you, man.
Very, very interesting article.